Welcome to Life in Headlock. I'm your Mississippi Madman, Logan Creed, and you are?
I am the unholy Gregory James.
Sweet. Thank you for being on Life in Headlock. Just a series of questions I have here I will ask you. I do not edit, so if you screw up, hello YouTube. So, here we go.
Perfect for me.
All right. Well, this is, I'm pretty sure your name isn't the unholy Gregory James, so could you tell me where you come up with it?
The unholy kind of thing, I based it off of Kiss is my favorite band. My favorite song is Unholy, and I started using that 3 years ago. I took over a dark character role from my trainer who retired, and when he retired, I decided that I was going to pay homage to him and become the Unholy. He was carrying arcane, so he was obviously like an angel, like a demon. So I went with that, and been doing it ever since. It kind of took off.
You yourself, have you always been a wrestling fan?
I have always been a wrestling fan. My mom actually got me into it. She was watching it before I was even born, and so I remember having a box of videotapes in the closet with AWA and old WWF and some WCW, and I was always watching tapes as a little kid, watching Monday Night Raw. I grew up idolizing characters. My favorite wrestler was Ultimate Warrior. My first favorite wrestler. Obviously, I donned the face paint. I started doing my face paint actually the day after he died. Every night for when I wrestled, no matter what. It's my own little thing. And Ultimate Warrior, Macho Man, Shawn Michaels. I was very enthralled and captivated by what they all do. And I've always been a wrestling fan, 28 years now.
All right. Well, where were you taught to wrestle, and who taught you how to wrestle?
I started in Dallas, or Fort Worth, really, with Metroplex Wrestling. Started there in late 2008 was when I started training, and I had my debut in 2009. I was trained by Matthew Palmer, carrying arcane I mentioned, Christopher Hayden, Stephen Curley. It was a long list of trainers and guys that were getting into business and helping out each other. And ever since then, just been going out and getting my name out. And I've been all over the South, California. Do that in March every year. I've been to Connecticut, so I'm getting my name out there shortly, or shortly and surely. But Ring of Honor is definitely a goal of mine too.
Well, who inspired you to get into wrestling? Was it a personal family member, a wrestler, or what you got?
I kind of always wanted to be a professional wrestler. It was always a dream of mine. I started in music. I was a singer for heavy metal bands. I played bass as well. And one day I was actually playing the video games, and I was like, I don't want to play video games anymore. I actually want to do this. And so I looked into a school. I kind of threw myself into it, took to it very quickly, and it's kind of been, my passion my whole life, whether it been, suppressed whenever I was doing music and stuff, but I knew eventually that I was going to be a professional wrestler.
Well, tell me about the first match you were in. Who was against?
First match I ever had was with this guy named Kyle Vallow. He trained about the same time I did, and if I could get rid of that footage, I would. It wasn't the best match.
Those one-star classics?
One-star classic, man. It was a good one. Kyle Vallow isn't wrestling anymore, but he did take on like a managerial role in the business. Now he's married and has a kid and doing his own thing now. But we had what you would call a red reels match. It was hard to swallow.
What,
I love you, Kyle.
Were you the victor, or you?
I ended up being the victor in that match. Very first match, I ended up the victor. Probably shouldn't have. Gosh.
Just curious.
Oh, I'm trying to remember. I remember the open was I just tackled him and started punching him. He came out. He was jaw jacking with the crowd, made them all feel like crap, and I came out the hero and took out this little emo kid, because he came out with the HIM, the heartogram, and all that stuff. So he got the crowd behind him and booing him, and then I came out and just it was cake from there. But the finish I want to say was I think I did a coast to coast.
Oh,
did a coast to coast. He rolls out, and then I hit a elbow drop, which was my first finisher. Was the elbow drop. So I think that was it. But I have to watch the footage again to make sure.
What do you think of TV wrestling? It could be anything from ROH to WWE. What do you think of the good and the bad?
Currently, I feel like WWE with NXT and even their current product, Raw, SmackDown Live, and their pay-per-views, it's in a resurgence. Like, I feel as though WWE or wrestling in general, it has a new life almost. For a while there, it was kind of like in the early 2000s, it was kind of like going down as far as popularity, I feel. Because I stopped watching for like a year or two. I just stopped in general and focused on my music career that I was doing. But then I fell back into it, fell back in love with professional wrestling. Currently, like I said, WWE is putting out a very good product with Seth Rollins. That guy is, like, for me, he's like the modern day Shawn Michaels. He turned on his friends just like Shawn Michaels did, became this super heel, and he's over with the crowd, whether he's a heel or a face, and he's got this charisma that I admire, and I feel like they're allowing their wrestlers to go out there and tell the stories, rather than, all right, here's everything written down from A to Z, and here's what we all want. Yeah, and Ring of Honor, I love Ring of Honor. That's eventually where I want to be as far as a job, and getting in this business is Ring of Honor is definitely a place to be, especially in North America. If you're not in Ring of Honor, you're not in TNA, or you're not in WWE. You're on the Indies technically, and where that's awesome. And I'd love to work at Evolve and all these other places. Ring of Honor is definitely where I definitely would be.
Well, let me ask you about one. I ain't asked nobody else this question, but I like it personally, but some people hate it. What is your opinion of Lucha Underground, or have you seen
Lucha
it all?
Underground? I think they're doing a really cool product. It's different. It's completely turned wrestling on its head. It's gone from being a sports entertainment aspect where it's a huge focus on all these promos and storytelling and the matches where it's a straight shot, but then you got Lucha Underground where they make it almost like a movie, it's like a TV show, a drama, and they, like I said, they've turned it on its head, and the popularity of it is huge.
Like I say.
I'm a fan of it. I don't have cable necessarily, so
I watch it online.
on the dark side of the moon, we don't really get a lot of reception. YouTube. I do use YouTube. I use Fight TV.
There you go.
I watch Paragon Pro Wrestling. I watch Rockstar Pro out of I think it's Ohio.
Yep.
And what did I recently watch? On Paragon, it was Rude Boy Riley. Rude Boy Riley's doing some cool stuff.
Well, can you give me a wrestling story? Funny, sad, up to you.
A wrestling story.
You ain't got to throw nobody on the bus now. This is up to you.
Wrestling stories. This is where it gets hairy.
It can be a clean one.
Let me think. I want to say the first time I flew out to California, we had 4 flights, and it was from flying to from Dallas to LA, from LA to San Francisco, and then we had to drive up to Eureka, which is almost Oregon, so that's another 5-hour drive. And I was traveling with Delilah Doom and Thomas Shire, and those two are hysterical. We had a blast. We were cutting up the whole time. He was doing Arnold Schwarzenegger impersonations, and I was doing other impersonations. We were just going the old guy from Family Guy. So we were going off on each other, just laughing our asses off. And the flight from Dallas to LA was fine, but we get there, and the plane from LA to San Francisco has already been delayed or canceled entirely because of the weather. So they were there hanging out for like 2 hours in LAX, and they finally give us a plane, but we might not get a seat. Like, it was will call, so like we were standing there with our bags ready to go, and they finally called my name and called their names, and we finally get on the plane. But it was a hassle. And then the actual flight from LA to San Francisco, we ended up flying around in circles, I think 5 times, because they were trying to line up, and the wind just kept blowing the plane this way or blowing the plane that way. And so we would keep going around, and Delilah Doom, she's not very good with planes, and so the anxiety of that was like setting her off, and she was not having a good time, but we had fun. Then we drove up, and like I said, we were driving through the wet redwoods and all the rain, and even on the way back, like the flight from San Francisco back to LA got canceled, and then and delayed again, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it back, that night. It ended up, we almost stayed in LAX all night, but it ended up working out to where we flew home. It was like a red-eye flight, but it was like my first really bad experience with planes.
Sounds like
it. Yeah. I've had some other trips where I was flying to Philadelphia for Ring of Honor tryouts, and Andy Dalton and I sitting in the airport at 7 o'clock in the morning getting drunk after the tryouts, trying to stay awake because I'd been up for 32 hours. So that was fun, but it was weird because we all had 3 different flights, even though we all came from the same place, rather than being on one flight.
Sorry.
I'm sure there's some other stories, but probably not PG.
Well, what style of wrestling do you yourself like to watch?
Really, for me, it's all about the storytelling. I love the strong style, the strikes. I mean, we're all doing this because we love it and we want it to, come off, as perfect as we want it. But we also know that it needs to look and feel, have that feel of a real fight feel. And I love the strong style. I love the Ring of Honor's style with the storytelling, the big pops, the This Is Awesomes, the Fight Forevers. WWE starting to, like I said, their performers are, I feel like they're given more leeway now, and so they're getting to have those moments.
Cool. Well, tell me about your favorite match that you have been in so far.
My favorite match that I've been in so far, I would have to say, was with Parade of Champions, NWA Parade of Champions. I wrestled Steve Anthony for the NWA World Junior Championship, and Steve Anthony is probably the best in-ring worker I've ever been with. He's by far a very well-kept secret. The fact that he's not, in bigger places doing better things is amazing to me, because like I said, he's the best that I've ever wrestled. It would be him, and then any match that I have with Barrett Brown. Him and I have torn it up in Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, all over Texas. In California now, we've torn it up there before. But I would have to say my favorite match was with Steve Anthony, Parade of Champions.
All right, well, this is the last question, but it's more or less, if you'd like to thank anyone on a personal level, who's been there for you the most? If you would, here's your opportunity.
I'd like to thank, first and foremost, my fiance, Mimi Fasalo. She pushes me farther and is like a support system that I've never experienced before. She's amazing, and I can't thank her enough. My mom for being there as the person who introduced me to professional wrestling. My trainers, Matthew Palmer, thank you. Everything you taught me, the things you haven't taught me. And I want to say Stephen Kirby, you gave me an opportunity. If I didn't make that phone call to start training at MPX, I probably wouldn't be here today, so thank you very much.
All right, brother. Thank you for being on Life in the Headlock.
Thank you for
Good
having
luck
me.
in the match tonight. Be
Okay,
careful.